Hello and welcome to another episode of Movies That Make Us. I'm Jake.
I'm Tracy.
And I'm Val. I want to give you something so just right off the bat. I'm going to go way out of off the side here.
Okay.
How is it that I have such a struggle to change my phone screen saver picture on my own, but yet as I'm fumbling around at the grocery store trying to get everything in my car, I change it. I don't know how I changed it. I don't know what it is.
You know what
I don't know where it came from, and now I'm just trying to get him.
It's magic.
How did I push enough buttons? Because it's 7 screens in. How did I possibly push enough buttons to do that?
It's the AI messing with you, Val. It's I'm gonna.
At least I didn't accidentally buy something.
This is true.
Yeah.
Maybe I did, and I don't know it. I don't know.
My phone likes to hit the return button when I'm in the middle of typing something. So all of a sudden I have letters on different lines, and I have no idea why. So not as exciting as yours. I mean, changing a whole background picture, that's
it looks impressive. Like paper or something. I don't know what it even is.
Wow.
If somebody got a random text from me, it wasn't me. I'm sorry. I don't know what I did.
I've tried to use that excuse before. I didn't send that text. I don't know where it came from.
That was hacked. Totally hacked.
The hackers seem to have a
Tracy, I found a new movie for you.
Yes? What is it?
It's the new Joaquin Phoenix movie.
Beau is Afraid. I'm interested to see this.
I think it's you. I think because I just thought it was a total waste of time.
I might. I like Ari Aster's first 2 films. This one is getting really mixed reviews. He's an interesting dude. He's got some issues.
I think for me, I had to give it 2 grades. I had to give it 2 grades.
Okay.
I gave the performances because I think it's one of Joaquin Phoenix's best performances.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
In a movie that I feel like, and I'll censor this, the director was just I'm just going to make whatever kind of movie I want. And you guys, his other movies are odd and interesting, but there is a conclusion. This is 7 different stories that don't ever come. You're just okay, that would have been a good movie. That would have been a good movie. I don't know what the F that was. It's just, and the acting from everyone was great. The filmmaking was great. So I gave the performances a B and I gave the movie a D.
Okay.
Wow.
That's how.
That's a low grade for you.
Because I don't like it when a filmmaker takes your time for 3 hours and makes something just for himself. There's an audience for this movie, but 95% of the rest of us feel slighted at the end.
Yeah, Adam McDonald said the first thing he said to the studio rep was, "How do I get my 3 hours back?"
Yeah.
So that one I'll probably wait till it's out on streaming. I don't think I need to see it on the big screen.
I don't know. There's some visuals in there and some intensity that you might actually enjoy it in the theater. I'm just so torn.
Yeah,
it's going to be Tracy's favorite movie of the year.
It is. It is, and it's the thing is it's great technical filmmaking,
right?
But as a whole, as a experience, as a film goer, it sucks as a film goer because you're trying. It's so surreal. It's I don't mind surreal things, and it's A24 plus this director. It's going to be crazy.
Right.
But I just wanted it to come back to something. And it just keeps going all these different places, and it leaves you to try and connect the dots. But too much.
Gotcha.
Like, I don't mind. Like, I didn't hate the end of Sopranos when it just goes black. A whole lot of people are like, "Oh, that was stupid," and I'm like, I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool, but
Yeah.
I don't know. This was just too much. Too much.
Okay, I'm curious. I know
I'm curious about what you think.
He's been like thinking of this story. Like this was originally going to be like one of his first films, and he couldn't get it financed because it was too weird. So he went. He's
Should have.
So he waited for A24 to come out.
Well,
And
when you do,
A24 is like, sure, we'll make it. We don't care.
Pretty
when
much.
you do Hereditary and Midsummer, and then you go into Beau is Afraid,
Yeah.
and then his next film he's talking about doing with Joaquin Phoenix, a Western noir film. So I like the fact that he's doing something different. I was excited to see that he's not doing another horror film, if you will, but more of a psychological thing. But dude has issues with his mom.
It's
like,
still kind of horror-ish.
That, yeah, but not like as much so as the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an experience. And there was at least one critic in our screening that she walked out and she was like, "That was awesome."
Oh.
We all sat through the end of the credits just sitting there like,
huh.
What are we going to say about this?
Yeah.
And again, I was torn because there was a lot about it that I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. Like, you're a filmmaker, you've put in your time, you have a project that you really want to do. But part of being a filmmaker is understanding that film is for people to experience with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are getting your movie made so that you can have other people experience something. And by just kind of giving your audience the finger.
Well, yeah. I'm excited to check that one out.
And then we'll talk about it, not on here.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's interesting.
I wondered if this was going to be.
I knew it was going to be
this year's Everything Everywhere All at Once, because I saw the previews and I was like, is it going to be like, because Everything Everywhere All at Once looked really weird in the previews and it worked really well on the film, right? But
then you have a movie like Mother, which I think this one might be more like.
Yeah, and I don't think people understand. People that have gotten on the A24 train with Everything Everywhere All at Once don't really understand what if your only exposure to A24 was last year and it was Everything Everywhere All at Once and then Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, you've got to dig into their catalog a little bit to kind of understand some of the movies that have been made by that studio for this one to make sense, it sounds like.
We should do an A24 month.
I don't know if we could find enough movies for Jake to.
I think we could do. Jake could do Lamb.
Okay.
And we could talk about. We won't pick like the way far out ones, but we could. There's enough out there that could fit into the category of this show.
So what Jake is saying is this is like the band Extreme when they release more than words.
Yeah.
The band's name is Extreme, and then they release this ballad, and all these girls fall in love with the band, and then they go see them live, and then they have a whole different experience.
I feel like I kind of have Extreme's hair today.
You kind of do.
Another good example is Frank Turner. My first experience with Frank Turner was Be More Kind, the album, which is a fantastic album.
Great album.
Then you go listen to his other stuff. It's very, very different, and you just need to be prepared for that.
Depending, yeah. There's some like Frank Turner Hardcore, the FTHC album. That one's definitely more. But if you listen to a lot of like positive songs for negative people, then you get a little bit more of the Be More Kind. But yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, he's coming in concert in a month, so I'm excited for that. And we're going to go see Foo Fighters.
We are going to go fight some Foo.
We're going to fight some Foo. I'm excited for that. So we got a good summer coming up.
Excited.
And Guardians. We get to see Guardians here soon. Early word of mouth is really good on this one.
One would hope.
Which
I hope it's going to be good. I hope they stick the landing with it. It's James Gunn's.
Better than Guardians 2, right, Val?
I mean, anything.
Beau is Afraid versus Guardians 2.
So if you want to hear my opinion on Guardians 2, Multiplane Podcast, we just had our Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 come out today. So when you're done listening to this, You could head over to Multiplane and you can hear, and I did have some good points. It wasn't all just slashing everything, but I have opinions.
So Beau is Afraid versus Guardians 2.
Guardians 2. Well,
Wow.
No. I'd probably watch Beau is Afraid one more time just because why do you do that?
Guardians 2 is shorter, Val.
It doesn't feel like it.
Oh, well, that's a fair point for you then. I want to be clear. I do not share Val's feelings for Guardians 2. I liked Guardians 2 fine.
You
It
don't
wasn't
know
as good
my
as the
feelings.
first one.
You got to listen on Monday or today.
Okay, I don't know Val's feelings.
You don't
Scratch
know
that
me.
last remark. I don't know.
Oh, so we've got rival opinions. And speaking of rival opinions.
Well, I was going to say, speaking of Guardians Volume 3, we will probably talk about it and we'll probably review it, but you're not going to be able to see it on our normal feed. You're going to have to join our Patreon to catch it. So make sure that you become a patron there, that you support us. It is $3 a month at the bottom level, and that's going to get you the access to the exclusive newer movies that we're going to review and the exclusive content that will be there. So you'll definitely want to check that out. $3 a month. Like
that is three $1 menu items from McDonald's. You can do that.
Tracy,
and you'll
I don't
feel
know how
a
to break
lot
this
better.
to you. They don't have a dollar menu anymore at McDonald's. It's been a while,
man. You won't be bloated.
Yes, we are. It's more satisfying for sure.
Yeah.
Than a cheeseburger from McDonald's. So that's going to be our new tagline for movies that make us.
On our show looks exactly like it does on the menu.
That's true. This is 100% certified pure Jake Dietz that you're looking at right here on the screen. This is not.
That's not
up with makeup or anything. I look this good in person as well.
He does. I will vouch for that.
Yep.
I was just freaking out because you said Foo Fighters in August, and I'm like, oh, what is the date of it in August? I didn't put it on my calendar yet. And I have a lot of events in August. I didn't know there's a Final Fantasy Fest. Final Fantasy Fest, and I will be
You've never been to the Triple F?
No.
I haven't either.
I've just been to the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, that's the double F, not to be confused with FF. Final, or what is it? Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
Fast and Furious franchise is Triple F.
Okay.
Yep, Triple F rated. I mean, Triple F. Okay. Rival opinions. I am excited because before we started recording today, it sounded like we're not all sharing the same feelings about this movie, and we're not all sharing the same feelings for next week's movie. So if you guys enjoy the conversations where we don't agree, the next 2 weeks are for you, I think.
If you like to see mommy and daddy fight.
Yeah,
I'm tired of these AAA ratings. Come on, give me something juicy.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to go a couple weeks before we have another AAA rating. Just call it a hunch. But we are talking about The Prestige. And I'm hoping, Val, because there was a lot of back and forth on this, that you did watch The Prestige with Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale and not The Illusionist with Edward Norton.
Yes, I did. I don't know why I couldn't get that out of my mind because they came out around the same time, I think.
They did, yeah.
And so it's just so weird that all of these same movies kind of tend to come out around the same time.
It's because one studio hears that they're making a certain kind of movie, and then the other studio's like, we need a volcano movie, or we need a talking ant movie. We need a rival movie.
The one I always think of, and I tie it to, like, to me, this is I call it a case of this. It's Armageddon versus Deep Impact, because I worked at the movie theater the year that those came out, and that was, and like Armageddon and Deep Impact, I think one of these movies has stood the test of time, and the other has not.
Yeah.
The Prestige, by the way, is the one that stood the test of time.
Well, and it's so funny because I think we should do like a show on like movies like that come out, or maybe a month on movies that are similar that come out in the same year, because I just got done reading Shoe Dog. You guys know how much I'm into Nike, and I love sports, and I love the history of sports, and Phil Knight is the co-founder of Nike, and I had seen both movies about the runner Prefontaine.
Okay.
but they both came out within a year of each other, and one of them has Jared Leto, and one of them has the guy, I can't ever remember what his name is, from Big Fish, and
Oh,
and I love him.
yeah.
And he's in Morning.
He's not in enough stuff. That's the problem.
Let me look it up really quick. But anyway, so it was so funny because I'm like, okay, I just watched the movie Air, which I do think we should do an episode on.
Right.
And then as I'm listening to this book, the Shoe Dog book, and he's talking about, we're in the sections that talk about the runner Prefontaine, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's the movies about it, and I've already seen them, but I didn't know the entire story, so I went back and watched both movies this week. And then I was like, then we pulled The Prestige, and I thought about The Illusionist, and I was like, but with the two movies about Prefontaine, they're actually both hold up very well. It's not like The Prestige and The Illusionist, where you want to set the illusionist on fire, and
Right.
the Prestige, you're like, okay, I mean, that's something, you know?
Billy Crudup.
Billy Crudup. I can't ever
Yep.
remember his name. I love him.
Oh, this is going to be
Just
fun.
for those that are screaming, Ewan McGregor. No, it wasn't Ewan McGregor that we were
No.
trying to think of. We would remember
That's where I
Ewan.
thought you were going
Yeah.
at first.
We're familiar with Ewan.
Jake said he needs to be in more stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. So obviously,
Morning Show. He's in Morning Show,
Yeah.
and he's the producer, and he's so good in Morning Show, and he was in Big Fish as the son. And he's really great, but he plays Prefontaine in that movie. And if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry, I should have been more. There is a movie that's called Prefontaine, but that's the one that Jared Leto is in. The one that he is in is actually like, it has like a running name, and I'm sorry that I forget everything. And I can't, it's not coming up.
Anyway.
Yeah. Is it 1 Mile to You?
No.
No, that's not it.
And I just watched it, but for some reason I can't remember anything.
No, it's not Zack Snyder's Justice League. That wasn't it.
It's not Rob. No.
Okay.
Okay. Well, when I find it, I'll just yell it out.
Well,
so go ahead, Tracy.
Jake.
No, I was just you kick us off.
I was just going to say, now I don't think a lot of people know this, but it's actually based on a book. And I've read the book, and the book is very different from the movie.
Right.
So it's interesting because in the book, they actually have the modern day kids or adults now, but they're the progeny of these magicians who play into it, and that was cut from the movie, and I think that was the right decision.
Yeah. That can work in a book, okay, but I think it can get too long in a movie.
Yeah,
and
this is a longer movie, and I like the movie. I feel like the ending is just a little too fast. Do we want to skip? Where do you want to go on this?
Well, yeah, we can get to the ending. I would kind of agree. I also, as I was looking up stuff about the movie, one of the commonly asked questions online is it based on a true story? Like, there are a couple of magicians that inspired it, but
yes.
No, I think if you've seen the movie, I think it's pretty clear that this is not based on a true story. And if you thought it was, that's interesting. And I'd like to talk about that with you.
People who actually lived, like,
yes,
there was a Tesla.
Yes, like Nikolai Tesla, that's a real person.
A real person, yeah.
I think that's what the great storytelling on something like this is that they put enough true things in the lie that you question whether it's true or not, which kind of goes along with the whole story of what they're telling you between all of the characters in the movie, is that if you put enough real things in this lie, in this deceit that's happening, then you're going to believe it. And so with good storytelling in a movie like this, they put enough things in there that we recognize.
Right.
That we're like, oh, and we question it, and so that the whole movie just keeps you on your toes the entire time about what's happening, what's going on, who's good, who's bad.
Yeah, it really does. And it's interesting to watch, like, again, because this is one of those movies that you hope that if someone has never seen it, and if you have never seen it, I would encourage you to go watch the movie and then come back and listen to our episode, because we will spoil it.
Yeah.
And you really, like, if you saw it the first time and it was unspoiled for you, I think it makes for a really interesting, like, you need that reveal.
Right.
This is a
Right.
movie that, and not surprisingly, when the whole premise of the movie is you've got the turn and the what, and then the prestige and whatever. But it's also interesting to go back and watch, knowing what the big reveal is going to be, or all of the big reveals, because when you watch it, Nolan tells you everything flat out.
Yep.
And when you watch it again, you're like, wow, I
It's
am
all
the
right
biggest
there.
dummy in the world because I didn't catch any of this. And it's all pretty blatant and obvious. And that's how brilliant it is, because that is exactly how, like, the whole movie itself is like one long magic trick,
It
because
is.
you're not looking for those things because you want to believe what's happening on screen.
And he
It's really
tells you the
interesting.
rules. Yeah, he tells you the rules right up front. And in fact, the very first 2 shots of the movie, once you know, tell you everything. There's a shot
Yep.
of all the top hats, and then
Yep.
there's the shot of the birds. And you get the little kid saying, "Where's the brother?" So right off the top,
Yeah.
you're being told what is happening, but you don't put them all together until after. Yeah.
Yeah. And to me it works better because the other movie that I think of, or that I think of all the time, and I know, Tracy, you disagree with this, and I'm sorry to bring it up on an episode that you're probably enjoying otherwise, but I think of The Sixth Sense.
Okay.
You had to go in fresh and not
Yeah.
know the
Yeah.
twist in that to get it at the very end. But
Well,
going back and watching it, I don't find it as enjoyable as I
exactly.
do The Prestige.
Yeah, because once you know the secrets of the prestige, then you can like see all the little breadcrumbs that are throughout it and still enjoy it, at least in my opinion. But I think that the
Mhm.
Sixth Sense, once you know, the rewatchability drops from,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Um, and I think a big reason for that, I think Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale play their roles so well here. Hugh
Yeah,
Jackman is so great in this kind of role of being, I mean, this
the
is him
showman.
auditioning for The Greatest Showman, really. The Great
I was thinking
Danton,
that.
and
Yeah,
but then Christian Bale really playing two different characters. Like, he does a great job, and there are moments where you can see, okay, he's obvious. I don't know which brother is which, but he's obviously this brother now that loves this person and not the other
I think
brother
the
that
only
loves
really
the
way
other
you can
person.
tell is how he reacts to Olivia.
Sarah. Yeah. To
I
Olivia,
think
yep.
I think that's the only real way that you can tell, because one's in love with Scarlett Johansson's character and one's in love with the other woman. But
Yeah.
I love the some of the misdirection, because they talk about like, um, they even say he's got a brother, you know, he's got a, it's not a brother, it's a double. And Michael Caine keeps saying he's got a double, and they're like, it can't be a double. And then especially because she says, well, I've seen him up close, and he's missing the 2 fingers. And there's, you in your brain, you're like, well, yeah, because there's no way the other guy would chop off his fingers in order to have the act. But they tell you with the Chinaman, when they go see the act, and Christian Bale's character is saying he lives it. He lives it 100%. That's the act. And so again, it's setting you up and telling you that this is going to happen, but you don't want to believe that after the bullet catch, the other brother would lose 2 fingers, but he does.
Yeah. Yeah. And when
And
they show that
evidently,
scene, gets me
that's
every
a
time.
that Chinaman scene. There was actually a white guy who dressed up as a Chinaman who did that. He lived
Mhm.
his life as this old Chinese man 100% of the time, and then he tried to do a bullet catch on stage and got shot. And he never spoke English, except for on stage he said, "Oh my God, I've been shot," and then he died. But like
Oh, wow.
otherwise, he lived to be this Chinaman, so they based it off of that guy, which is fascinating to me. Like,
Yep.
I'm not dedicated. Like, that's method acting to an extreme, right? That's just
Yeah.
And I think in Christian Bale's characters, that is like the longest drawn out like deceit ever. It's just that's so much energy
yeah.
to try and deceive so many people. And you might say, well, yeah, it's the trick, but it's also just so manipulative.
Oh,
Like,
Yeah.
absolutely.
he is a very, very manipulative person
Yeah.
to
Yes.
people, but
Mhm.
to be able to carry on that lie for so long is, that's the long game. But in the end, you realize, yeah, he is super addicted. I wouldn't say committed, but he's super addicted to the life that he wanted to live.
Yeah.
That he allows this to happen to him, and his brother dies, right?
Mhm.
But I think that Hugh Jackman's character is the more ruthless character.
Yeah.
Like he's at the
Yes.
tipping point of doing very, very bad things to get what he wants. Very quick. He goes beyond what he would normally do as a person, and
Yeah.
he steps across that line. And that's, I think, you know, when you're trying to figure out what you want to be when you grow up and then you get there, I think we've all hit a point in our careers where you're like, am I willing to go there to get that?
Right.
And you either do it
That person is.
or
Somebody else is willing to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the
Somebody
time I
else
just
is,
walk
I'm
through a
right.
different door.
Right.
That's why I've had so many different jobs, because I
Yeah,
know my limits.
Yeah, and for Christian Bale's characters, there was an obsession, but it was always on that professional level. Like, I don't know that he ever got personal until the very, very end when it was, well, I'm getting my daughter back and you killed my brother and whatever. But for Hugh Jackman's character, the great Anton, he is from the very beginning, it is all personal. Like, he's
Absolutely.
not
Yeah.
obsessed with trying to do better than him just to be the better magician. It is, I need to run him out of town.
Yeah, you
And
killed my wife,
worse,
and
he killed my wife.
it wasn't
Allegedly.
on purpose, but you were responsible. You did the wrong knot. So
Yeah.
I'm coming to destroy you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
I
then
think
when he finds out, like, what he has to do to, like, get him there,
yeah.
that's, you know, those are morals that people, it's questionable, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. I wonder how that conversation went, though, for the two brothers. We're like, "Look, I've got this idea for this magic trick, but it's gonna require us to live one life together and, like, only live half a life." And the other one being like, "No, I'm totally on board because that payoff is gonna be legit, man. We've gotta do it." Like, how does that go?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
Just
obviously, one of them was running the show a little bit more than the other,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But yeah, to think that you have to pretend to be in love with this woman that you don't love and to be with this child that's not yours and to
Yeah.
that's brutal.
Well, yeah, so I think for me, this is how I break it down. We've got the two brothers. We don't really know. We know one of them is named Alfred because we're assuming that's one of their names.
Right.
We don't know the other one's name. So we're gonna call them Alfred and Freddie. I feel like Alfred was the one that was married to Sarah. It was his
Mhm.
daughter. Uh he loved her. That was the life that he wanted. And then Freddie was the one that loved Scarlett Johansson's character,
Yeah.
didn't love Sarah. So, Tracy, which one lived and which one died, do you think?
I think Alfred lived and I think Freddie died because he's with the girl at the end. But I could be wrong.
Yeah,
Maybe the other brother, maybe Freddie had a change of heart and is now like, I'll raise this child in memory of my brother.
yeah,
It's hard to do. And I love the fact too, like they didn't disguise Freddie much when you look at it. Like,
yeah,
but you don't think you don't automatically think that's Christian Bale playing the same character,
right.
right? And at first we only see like side glances, but as the movie progressed, we see more and more of Freddie. But at least the
Yeah.
first time that I saw it, I never put two and two together going, wait a minute, that's Christian
No,
Bale.
when the reveal happened, I was like, "Holy cow. How did I miss that throughout the whole
Yeah.
movie?" And like I said, watching it again, I'm like, "I am the world's biggest idiot because it is all laid out right there for me." But it's easier. Every test is easier when you've got the answer key,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
But the nice
but
thing with it is I didn't feel cheated. Like sometimes they do a reveal and you're like, well, how was I supposed to figure that out? Like you get the reveal and you're like, well, duh. Or like, there's no way I would have been able to figure that out without this knowledge that you hid from me. Like you feel
yeah,
cheated because they hid that so you wouldn't figure it out. But in this one, I feel like there's enough stuff there that you look back and you're like, I probably should have caught these things and I didn't.
yeah. And then there's Hugh Jackman's big reveal where you find out the way that the trick works with the transporting, and like he's basically killing a clone of himself every night, or a copy of himself. I don't know if clone, copy, something.
Yeah.
They never explain the science
it's
behind
that again. It's that, like, is it a person? Is it a real person? Is it not?
Yeah.
That person then could end up killing him and then take it. Like,
Well,
there is so many things that he is dealing with here that are not okay.
Well, and he
Yeah, I
says
agree.
at the end when he's talking to Christian Bale, to Alfred, and he's like, "You never got your hands dirty," and he's like, "Oh, I get my hands dirty because I never know if I'm going to be the man in the box or the man on the stage." So I feel like
Yeah.
this isn't a different version of him. Like, it is him, but in two pieces.
Mhm.
And then he's got to kill one of himself. It's like he's
Yeah.
committed suicide every night.
Mhm.
Ugh.
I think one of the most interesting things is when Cutter, so Michael Caine is brilliant in
Michael
this
Caine
movie,
is
which
great.
is,
He's
I mean,
brilliant in everything. We don't deserve
exactly.
him.
This is so
You
true.
don't.
He when
I mean,
real quick, when I was in film school, we actually watched. He had a documentary series that he created for actors on how to act for film, and it's a whole like series that I wish I could get my hands on, but it was fascinating to watch. And because I guess like he came from the stage and got into film, and so he was helping other actors on how you have to act differently for film. And I'm like, anyway, I've always found that just interesting.
yeah. When you see his character kind of when he starts figuring out what's been going on with the great Danton and like Lord Caldwell, and like he's alive and all this other stuff, uh you can tell like for him that's the breaking point of this is too far. This has gone too far. Like I think he struggled with him throughout, trying to tell him, like the whole argument about he uses a double. That's how he does it. We've got to find you a double. We're going to do it. And like you've got to get past this obsession. Like it's almost a father son, mentor mentee kind of relationship. But then when he comes in with Christian Bale's daughter, and he finds out he's still alive and all this other stuff, it takes it to a new level for him where like he
I can't
realizes
let
with
this
the
stand.
audience this, yeah, it's too far.
I just
Took
want
it
to
too
know if
far.
there was ever any like mixing up of, lines because, Batman Begins comes out in
Sure.
2005 with Christian Bale and him, and then this comes out in 2006.
you've
They
got a
probably
character
shot
named
around the
Alfred.
same time. You've got, there's just so many things.
I'm sure it
But I
happened.
love seeing them on screen together. Michael Caine and Christian Bale are just
That's magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think probably when the great Danton falls through the floor and breaks his leg, he probably said, "Why do we fall, Master Danton? So we can learn to pick ourselves up." They're like, "Cut. That's the other movie."
Okay, that Foley artist, whoever created the sound of his leg breaking,
oh my gosh,
bravo, because that sound is horrifying.
It was.
Every time I see it, I'm like, oh, like you feel that break. It is brutal.
Yeah, it is.
I do think that as much as I love the coloring of this movie and I love the lighting, like they play so much with lighting in this film, which plays to what, like a magician is. It's all about the lighting, and it's all about basically giving you right in front of your face what the answer is, but you don't see it. It's all about that. I do think sometimes the pacing of this movie isn't great for me. I think that sometimes when, we have Hugh Jackman's character is like out just trying to get the best thing, from Tesla, I feel like some of that just kind of drags on a little bit. I don't know that we need all of that. I don't know. There's just like a lot of it to me. I hadn't watched it since it had come out. So it's been a long time that I even forgot. I forgot like a lot of this movie. So it was like watching it again. I'm like, okay, oh yeah, I remember this. I remember that. But I didn't remember the big reveal at the end.
Okay.
And
Oh, wow.
so I was like, oh, that's a big deal. How did I forget that? But there was a lot in the middle that just kind of drug on for me, that by
Yeah.
the time I got to the end, I'm like, oh, that was really cool. I mean, but I'm kind of bored a little bit, but that was really neat. Like,
I could see a little bit of that. I feel like
yeah.
there's a middle section that's a little too long, and the ending to me goes a little too fast.
Yes, like
Yeah.
it needs it. If we could tighten up the middle a little bit so that
Uh-huh.
that pacing, it wouldn't feel as fast at the end.
I agree.
Because I feel like we've got a lot happening at the beginning, and
Uh-huh.
then all of a sudden we just have like this stuff in the
Yeah.
middle, and then it goes again
Boom,
at
boom,
the
boom, boom, boom.
end.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just feel
Yeah.
like the pacing is just a little bit off for me, and I think because of that, I get kind of annoyed by Hugh Jackman's character, which I think you're supposed to
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
in a
Yeah.
sense, but then it was just to the point where I was like, but this is like, get out of, keep going, like get out of, like you need to
Yeah.
move on, move forward, like get to where you're supposed to go. I just wanted to like scooch him along, you know.
Go
Come
ahead.
on, Hugh.
Well, I think the other thing with the pacing, I think that I I struggled with a little bit, or I could see people struggling with a little bit, is they go back and forth on whether this is past, present, what part in the past it is, who's reading which diary at which point, and they kind of just there's nothing to tell you when they change from one scene to the next, who where they are in the storyline. And so it makes it a little bit harder. It made it a little bit harder for me to kind of follow through.
Yeah.
I also feel like that's intentional because I do think that
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of the we want you to be looking over here. We don't want to stay too long here, so you're piecing things together and putting it together. We need you to look over here now. So there's a little bit of that distraction sleight of hand in the storytelling. I'm just trying to decide if I think that works or not.
Well, and you bring up a great point, Jake. I did a little bit of reading on the film before we hopped on, and there is 160 cuts in this film that create a time jump, which is a
Hmm.
lot. So it is definitely on purpose. Like he's cutting from one to the next, and going forward and backwards, and so that's definitely deliberate. But it is a little bit disconcerting, and it's one of my problems with Nolan. Like I really like him as a filmmaker, and I'm really interested
Hmm.
to see what he does with Oppenheimer. Um, but he and his brother sometimes outthink themselves. Like they're
Yeah.
really smart people, but sometimes they're like it's kind of like what Val was saying about Beau is Afraid. Like they kind of get into their own heads and forget like you need, especially his brother. I think Nolan is much better about it, but like Westworld is a great example, which was all done by his brother. Is it starts off with a great concept and then it goes off on these tangents that are like out there, and
Yeah.
you're like, but what happened to the story that I was being told? That's not the story you're telling me
Yeah.
anymore. And sometimes I think they get like so far of I'm so much smarter than everybody else. And
Hugh
then
Jackman's character in this movie.
Yeah.
yeah. And so then they kind of lose track of the story at times. So yeah, I would agree with that.
And the rushed ending for me felt right at home this week as I
Mhm.
finished up the season finale of The Mandalorian and the series finale of Picard, both of which I felt like there was a little bit of rush ending involved there.
We've got
Um,
18 loose ends we've got to tie up. Let's go.
yeah, it's like, oh crap, we're on the last episode, guys. We better wrap this story up. Is how it kind of felt sometimes, and I felt like this movie was kind of the same thing. Oh, we've got all these loose ends, and I think that it's hard because I think in all three instances there were things that they were trying to hold on to and not reveal until the very end.
Uh-huh.
And when you're doing that, when you've got, and that starts adding up more and more throughout the movie, then you're trying to time all of those reveals just perfectly, and I think it ends up in this case being a little bit of a rush.
Yeah. Yeah. I think to me, one of the best big reveal endings is The Usual Suspects in terms
Mhm.
of the pacing, because they give you enough where you're like, whoa, when they reveal the whole Kaiser Soze, like that is timed perfectly. This one to me, it's like I don't have a problem with doing like a lot of information in a little bit of time, but it happens. The edit is so fast. It's like, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then you're like, oh, okay, I think I get it. Like you don't come out of there going, okay, I get it. You come out going, I think I get it, and then you have to watch it again in order to
Mhm.
really kind of start to put the pieces together.
Yeah. Um, but overall, I think the movie itself is enjoyable. I think
Mhm.
it's got visually, it's really, I mean, it's a Nolan
Oh,
movie. I think
that
this
that
is, if,
shot that shot in the snow with the light bulbs.
yes.
Oh, gorgeous.
Also, if Tesla's alternating current works anything like what they show in this movie, why are we not using that instead of Edison's?
I
Well,
think it
that's a
is.
whole different conversation.
It is. Yes.
I read a little bit. I haven't read a ton, but I know that it does work, but it's like trickier.
Yeah,
But like Edison was the better salesman.
he
Um,
was.
and Edison, I think it's interesting too in this film. Like we have where the very first time that we see the Tesla machine, and we have the heckler in the audience who's like, "Is this safe?" You know, and this looks dangerous. And then it turns out that he's one of Tesla's guys that, or excuse me, one of
Yeah.
Edison's guys that burns
Yeah.
down Tesla's factory.
Yep.
And they actually did that kind of thing. I guess Edison really did hire people to like
Edison
bust
was
their
a
ops.
bad
He
guy.
was not a good
Like,
dude.
there are documentaries historical about these men, and they're dirty birds. Like,
Yeah.
and because it was all who's going to get to it first, and that's going to be
Right.
who gets all the money, and that's who's going to be whose name is everywhere. And Edison and Tesla, they played some dirty games with
Yeah.
each other.
Alexander Graham Bell, also awful individual. Just thought I'd throw that out there because I
don't
do
think
every chance
Tesla's
I get.
awful, but I do think like he got pushed around by Edison enough that he made some
Yeah.
things.
I
But
think,
Edison, and I forgot about Graham Bell. Graham Bell, oh,
yeah, he was awful.
But we get told these stories as kids that they were just
I
these
know.
great.
Like, he invented the telephone, and we're so grateful for it. He also, like, really pushed for, anyway, we don't need to get into a lot of stuff like eugenics and other things, so we'll kind of move forward. But
Let's
yeah,
listen
I
to
think
this movie podcast where they like have a little book club discussion, and then we'll get into
this will be
eugenics.
fun. So eugenics, let's break it down. I just don't think I'm qualified to dig into it to the depth that it should be dug into at some point, but I'm sure there is someone who is, and they probably have a podcast that you should go and find if you're interested in learning more about eugenics. Anyway, yeah, I think Tesla was more of a visionary.
Yeah.
And that's hard in that kind, when you're looking at competing against people that are in it to make money. Visionaries oftentimes lose out because they're more about, I want to do something great and that's my legacy. Whereas, yeah, so they get pushed around a lot, unfortunately. So, but David Bowie as Tesla was great.
I forgot, and he comes on screen, and I was like, ah! Like I had this little like Bowie.
I forgot Scarlett Johansson was in this, and then David Bowie shows up, and I didn't forget it, but I kind of did, and I was like, oh yeah.
Well, what's funny is I think a lot of the actors that are in this, okay, David Bowie being not that case, because David Bowie's he is an actor in this, and he does a great job, but he is a musician. That's what we know him for, and his legacy had already been cemented by 2005 when this comes out, 2006. But like Scarlett Johansson was just kind of coming on the scene. Like, she was a big deal, but wasn't to the level that I think she is now.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman with Wolverine, this was kind of one of the first roles outside of that he was in. And Christian Bale was just coming back on with Batman Begins.
Yeah, he was a child actor.
Yeah, he was in Newsies, by the way.
Sings
and
everything. He was in the Spielberg, the Rising of the Sun, Empire of the Sun. Yeah.
Yes, Empire of the Sun. He was also in that. But then you've also got Andy Serkis is in this.
Andy Serkis.
Totally forgot he was in it until he shows up. I'm like, oh yeah.
I gotta say, Andy Serkis is one of the most underrated actors. Like, everything he does is so good, and rightfully so. We think of him as Gollum, right? I mean,
yeah,
but
we do.
But he was brilliant in that. But he's so good at so many other things, like in Andor this last year. Fantastic performance.
In Black Panther, he is awful. It's awesome how awful he is.
And he is, I think he will go down as one of, if not the best character actor of his time. I mean, he's just, everything he does is so well done I mean, I don't know that he's ever going to be the leading man. He could, but I think he's just
Mhm.
so good in the roles that he's in.
Yeah. He's so
Also,
interesting. Like, you see him and you go, "Okay, that's Andy Serkis," but it doesn't define the character. Like,
no.
you see Tom Cruise, and you're
He
like,
gets
"Okay,
lost in the
it's
character.
Tom Cruise." Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Like, you
yeah,
recognize his name as as an actor, but you get into the role that he's playing.
yeah. He also is a great audiobook narrator. He made
I
Lord of the
bet.
Rings and The Hobbit so much easier to listen to once they came out with his versions. Um, anyway, just
And then one last thing that I think is interesting, Jake. So we have Alfred Borden and we have Robert Angier, and if you take the
yes.
first two letters of their names, Abra.
Oh boy.
Another little magic trick, little hidden thing there for you. And before we grade, I read this and I thought this was hilarious. So Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale both talked to different magicians, and the magicians that Christian Bale talked to, they would like show him parts of tricks, like how to do some little hand um, stuff, because he had to do stuff with the ball and the bullet and stuff like that. So they were showing him pieces, but he's like, they never showed me the full trick. They'd show me like bits
No.
and pieces, right? Hugh
Yeah.
Jackman, Hugh Jackman went and saw David Copperfield, and then got to meet him afterwards. And it's Hugh Jackman and his wife. And this is from Hugh Jackman. So unless Hugh Jackman's lying, the story is true. He says,
Mhm.
David Copperfield is like, come with me, I'll show you something cool. So it's like 12:30 at night, and he takes him to what looks, and sorry for this, Jake, but it's a sex shop, and it's closed
Okay.
for the night. So David Copperfield pulls out some keys, and Hugh Jackman and his wife are like, "What are we doing here?" And he opens the door, and they go inside, and he tells Hugh Jackman, "Push the nipple of that mannequin," and
Oh
he
my goodness.
does, and a secret door opens, and it's like this museum of magical memorabilia that Hugh Jackman
Wow.
thinks is like football fields long underground, full of all this magician's collections of stuff, and like puts on a private show for him until like 2 o'clock in the morning. But evidently, somewhere in Las Vegas, there is a magical museum that you enter through a sex
Listen,
shop by pushing the mannequin's nipple.
Isn't there
I'm just
like a
gonna say
Brendan
this.
Fraser movie about this?
It
There
sounds
should
like
be,
one
there's
that
not.
if you want something to blend in Las Vegas, hide it in a sex shop.
But I'm like,
It'll
what, you got to
there's a
look
lot
at
of
yourself and be like, what kind of life am I living? Like, I'm hanging out with David Copperfield in the basement of the sex shop, watching a private performance from this magician. I mean,
Christian Bale's
that
like, I just have these rings.
right?
but it
That's why I
but
got
it's
so angry on set. Freaking Hugh
yeah.
Jackman.
And you Jackman pushing nipples and seeing private shows from David Copperfield. I'm over here bouncing a ball. No respect. Listen, I now it would probably be different. I think
If
Christian Bale
this,
would get the private show. It'd be
if
fine.
that
But
story is not true, I desperately want it to be. So it exists in my mind.
Now there's all
yeah,
these people going around the sex shops in Vegas, like just pushing things,
Poking nipples.
hoping.
we've started a new TikTok trend. Let's see if we can find David Copperfield's hidden magic museum.
Kids,
And on that note,
don't poke the
B
nipple.
minus.
Okay. I saw a TikTok that this is reminding me of. This lady she went with her daughter to a museum tour, COSI, or COSI or something like that. I don't know, Chicago something. And she was given like 4 kids that she was in charge of, and they were kind of the kids that needed extra attention in the class. And she said it was great until we came into the room with it. They had all the baby fetuses in, and they're like, so how do they put them in there? And she's like, oh, they're just models that they put in glass. And they're like, no, like, how do they put them in there, like in the woman? And she's like, oh, well, talk to your parents about that. Whoever you live with at home, they can explain it. And she said, let's move on. And anyway. And then at another point, they're like, I just squeezed a woman's breast. And it was because they had like models of breasts that like you could squeeze apparently. And she's like, why is this a thing? Like, why do they have this in there?
Wow.
And then someone
Because
else,
it's an interactive exhibit.
it's an interactive exhibit. Somebody else yells out, "I just touched that guy's balls," and they go, and it's like a model of testicles.
What
It's
are you
like, why?
watching, Jake?
Why is this?
What are you
It was
watching?
a second grade field trip. This was like a science museum
mean,
that they went on. It was anyway.
I don't know what your
Poking
TikTok
the
feed
nipple
is,
made me think
but
of
that's
that.
not on my TikTok feed, Jake.
I will find
Valerie's
it and I will
Disney
share it to you guys so
I
you can
do
see
not need that on my TikTok.
it.
Valerie's
There's
is all
nothing
about-
graphic about it. It's kids who like don't know any better. They're like,
I'm trying to make you feel more uncomfortable about what you're talking about.
I'm comfortable with it. I'm fine. I'm clean here. Val says B-. I'm gonna go higher. I'm gonna go A- on this for the Prestige. I think it's good. It does have problems. The time jumps are definitely hard to follow, and I think without that it would be an A. But it was enjoyable from start to finish for me again. So I'm gonna rate it an A-.
I'm gonna go with Jake. It's not a perfect movie. There's some editing issues, but I really like the acting. I think it's a smart movie. It's a little too smart for its own good. Like I said, the main problem to me is the rushing at the end. But I'm gonna go A- as well. I think this is a really, really good movie. One of Nolan's better films.
That's true. I enjoy this is probably one of my favorite
was
Nolan
great
films.
for a Nolan film.
Yeah,
I could hear the
actually
people.
understand the dialogue. It was fantastic.
Yeah, well, I could hear the dialogue. There were some parts where the accents got a little thick that I didn't understand the dialogue, but that wasn't Nolan's fault.
That's true.
So, but overall, enjoyable movie. Go check it out. If you haven't seen Prestige in a long time, we just ruined it for you again, but go watch it anyway. It's still really entertaining.
Go see David Bowie.
Yeah, go see David Bowie in a movie. Like, honestly, what else do you need in your life? Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you'll never miss a new episode when it comes out, or follow us on whatever podcast feed you enjoy listening to podcasts on. We appreciate the support. We appreciate the listens. And please pay attention to our Facebook page. If you don't follow us there, please do so, because we will be having events and other opportunities so you can donate to the American Cancer Society, because in January we are going to run, jog, walk 10K in Disneyland, and it's going to be epic. It's going to be awesome.
We're going to do some broadcasts from Disneyland. It's going to be great. But we'll be doing events and raising money.
Are we doing broadcasts from Disney? Because I'm thinking, what equipment do I need to bring for this? All right, we'll talk about that.
Even if we do a phone thing, phone thing, we'll figure it out.
My phone, we got it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you everybody for your support. We really appreciate it. And until next time, we won't see you at the movies.
I need a tagline. I need an ending tagline.
This has been an Age of Geek media production.